Digging Deeper family, we are back after a week off. We are here, and you're going to notice one of these things is not like the other. Yes, I'm just the guy here with my face on a mug. I am also the only one here who is not a mother. We are celebrating Mother's Day a few days late here on Digging Deeper, and I'm surrounded by three amazing mothers. Fun fact, there's a good chance that without these three women, some of our River Valley campuses would not be here, and I'm going to explain why. To my far right, we have the wife of Mark Goins, Dana Goins. Dana, how are you doing?
I'm a little nervous.
She's a little nervous, but you know what? We're fine. We're going to make her comfortable here. I asked these three to come up with one word to describe what a mother is, or one word to describe a mother. Dana, what is your word?
I was going to say love, but I'm going to say superwoman.
Superwoman. See, all right, she's already going ahead kicking her shoes off. She's got Superwoman out there. Dana, yes, the wife and the anchor of Pastor Mark. Also the mother of a few members on our pastoral staff as well, Pastor Tyler out of Redwood, and Natalie, who's a frequent flyer here on Digging Deeper as well. So, Dana, really glad that you are here with us.
Thank you for
You will
asking
not regret
me.
it. The sole person responsible for holding it down out at Rogue River with me. Without Tawny, Rogue River's not a thing. Direct quote from Pastor Austin Abbott. Tawny, how are you doing?
I'm good.
Yes, and one word to describe a mother?
The first word that comes to mind is persevering.
Okay, so we got Superwoman, persevering. Awesome. And to my left, the anchor of the Murphy campus, the wife of Pastor Brian Lucas, Ashley, a first-time flyer here on Digging Deeper, I believe. How are you doing?
I'm also very nervous.
Also very nervous. Okay, all right.
Just being honest.
Okay, well, all right. Well, we're fine with that. Nervous is cool, but I'm going to go ahead and guess the nerves will wear off here soon. Yeah. One word to describe a mother.
I'm thinking selflessness.
Selflessness, okay.
Agree.
Yeah.
So Superwoman, persevering, selflessness. I love it. Selfless. Yeah, as I was just asking with them, warrior is kind of the word I had on my mind. I had different women kind of take on mothering roles in my life, and warrior describes each and every one of them. One of you is probably listening today. Hi, Mom. All right, well, we're going to go ahead, and I'm going to open up to all of you. Tawny, I'm going to start with you, if that's all right, as the Digging Deeper veteran of the three. Mother's Day. It's a holiday that has actually, over the last few years, I've seen people kind of have different reactions to it, maybe in the church, out of the church. What are your guys' thoughts on Mother's Day?
Well, I guess I have a lot of different conflicting thoughts. Like, part of me thinks it's kind of dumb because, like, we should all love our moms every day. And then part of me really likes it because I can talk my kids into doing what I want. Mm-hmm. And Jason spoils me. So I have very conflicting feelings about it. But I know it's hard on people sometimes too. So.
All right. Yeah. So you alone kind of represent all the different perspectives.
Yeah, sorry, guys. You
So you wake up, though, on Sunday. It's Mother's Day. Your first reaction is like...
Ooh, Jason's going to make me breakfast.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. So, okay, as it should be. But as I like to say, it's a gentle reminder that we should celebrate our moms the other 364 days. But some really just put all their chips on that one day. Dana, what is your thoughts on Mother's Day?
I'm an emotional person anyway, but so much emotion comes out when I think of motherhood and just joys and laughter, but sorrow and regret. Being that I've always been involved in the church services, I think of so many women out there that I know their stories. I know the miscarriages, the lost kids, the grief of a child that's walked away from the faith. I can see it on their faces, and typically when Mark gives the sermon, I'm always saying, now don't forget about this and don't forget about this, because I know it can be painful for many women, even women who are single or women wanting a child that can't have one. So there's a lot that I think there's a lot of joy because I love being a mom, but there's heartache too.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you normally now I ask this question because I'm good friends with all of your kids. Do your kids really spoil you on Mother's Day? Do they do a good job?
Well, our kids grew up in the church, so they're also super busy. So I sit in my chair every morning to have my quiet time, and I get on my phone. I'm waiting for Happy Mother's Day, and It's not often there.
Okay, all right.
But it doesn't mean that they're not wanting to wish me happy Mother's Day. They're just busy. Our kids are busy. So that comes later in the day. But typically I think of my kids fondly, and I just, again, love being a mom. So
My attempt to highlight the pros of the kids has turned sour. You guys need to text your mom ASAP on Mother's Day. All right.
I'm just happy. As long as it happens at some point during the
Yes.
day, I'm happy.
agree.
Well, I did the same thing. My mom was coming over for Mother's Day dinner, and so I actually didn't text her. And I was like, 3 o'clock. I should probably text her and let her know I'm thinking of her. I'm gonna see you soon. But so I did the same thing. But that was just I made the intentional decision to not do that. So, all right, Ashley, your thoughts on Mother's Day?
I've always loved Mother's Day, even before I was a mom, because I have so many amazing mother influences in my life. I've got 3 sisters, my mom, and then now married my in-laws and my sisters-in-law and all those. So they deserve the celebration. So I always really enjoyed it. And now that I am a mom and I have pretty young kids, I'm like at the sweet spot of Mother's Day where they're like making me cards. Kiara wrote me a song that she sang like 50 times.
Wow.
And, you know, so to me, it's really special. But also, you know, on Sundays, Brian is preaching. And so a lot of it is ministry aspect of it is trying to be there for the women that are struggling. And there is a lot of that. I would say that I heard a lot of really hard stories this year. And it really just made me realize, you know, we need to be loving on all of those women that are, you know, struggling with. So,
Especially well, from all 3 of you, but especially you two as pastors' wives, I'm getting a sense of sacrifice for wives in ministry, especially on Mother's Day, where maybe you would love to just get spoiled, but you actually have to have a little bit of a outward mindset to take care of those that are going to be struggling more.
Definitely. So yeah, especially when the kids were little, getting 4 kids ready and off to church, and Mark's already here and we're fighting on the way, and it's like, oh joy, it's Mother's Day.
Your kids don't argue.
I think I had the expectation, like when Kiara was a newborn, that I was going to get breakfast in bed and just be, everything was about me. And then, you know, that's not really how life goes when you have a husband that works a lot. And so,
All right.
but yeah, I mean, now I feel like, I don't know. I just feel like it's more, I'm enjoying the giving to the other women, and you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very
awesome.
rewarding.
Well, audiences, you're going to find out. We're not necessarily going to spend too much time, or actually maybe any, on the messages that were taught this weekend, because I really just wanted to, as a non-mother, dig into the minds of mothers. So we're going to continue with that. And for those of you that don't know, my wife, Rachel, will officially get to be a mother. Although do you guys already call her a mother pregnant? I think
Yes.
pregnant women are already
Mamas.
already mamas, because they are doing things that no one else can. So this was kind of a fun Mother's Day, as she is 5 months pregnant. So I'm going to send it back to you, Tawny, and I'm hoping maybe to get something from everyone. Audience, I'm hoping that you moms out there are kind of sitting and relishing maybe answering these questions in your own head. Maybe you can relate to them as well. But we're going to go favorite memory of motherhood so far.
That's hard. There's so many good memories. I think my favorite memories from my kids were little was when they'd all play together nice. Like they'd be in the living room just playing with blocks or something for hours, and it was so cute and sweet and fun.
Wait, you said playing with rocks?
Blocks.
Oh, I was like,
Blocks,
generally
yes,
playing
when
with
they were
rocks gets dangerous after. All right, sorry, blocks.
Yeah. And then, but now as my kids are adults, I'm actually enjoying them the most. So like even this last weekend, my daughter and son-in-law came over and had dinner and we played games. And so I feel like we're always making these new fun memories because I love adult children so much compared to the little whiny cry ones.
And just for some reference, Dana, your 4 kids span the 20s, right? Kind of mid to late 20s, one of the 30s. You have 310? Okay.
Kiara's 8.
8, okay, 308. And then yours range from
16 to 24.
Okay, 16 to 24. So we got literally all the age ranges. We're missing that 8 to 16, but nothing fun happens there. So, all right. So, what about you guys? Any favorite memory of motherhood that comes to your mind?
I would agree with Tawny that watching your kids play together, play with other kids, it's just they're so creative, especially the younger they are. We used to have people over, and the adults would be sitting there at the dinner table, and the kids would do a parade through the house. This was often where they'd make up a funny song and put things on their heads and costumes and whatever they could think of. And then they'd march through the house and the parents would watch and be our entertainment. But they were so creative, which I loved. And that was before all the, I think, technology took over. They just learned to be simple with their fun.
So Mother's Day 2022, the kids are going to recreate that. Is what I'm hearing.
I'll try.
That needs to be a special episode. It needs to get filmed and be a special episode.
Because by next year, you're going to even have another daughter-in-law. Like, we got 7. That's going to be great. So
there we go.
We get a parade through your house. It's going to be filmed. Cool. And I'm going to lose friends just drastically. But all right, that's good. Ashley, what about you?
I think my favorite was when Lizzie was born, and my girls, Kiara and Abby, got to meet her for the first time, and like that, that was the complete of our family. So just being able to like see my whole family together and how excited they were, and just, it was just a really special moment.
And the dog, and Charlie.
Well, obviously, when Charlie met Lizzie, it was really special too. I have it recorded, so I'll upload it on Facebook. Just follow me.
There we go. All right. Well, Ash, we're going to keep the needle on you. So we kind of heard there is some struggles. It's not all paradise serving in ministry. That comes as a shock to nobody. But hopefully what we can highlight here is that there's a lot of blessings that happen. Oh, yeah. So my kind of question to you is, how is the church family? And I know you're out at Murphy, but you haven't always been out at Murphy, so this is to the church in general. How has that been a support for you in these 8 years of motherhood?
Oh, wow, so much. I mean, when when Brian became the head pastor, I was super pregnant and super nervous about taking on that role because I didn't know what the expectations would be of me being like the pastor's wife and having a newborn baby. And I was so loved throughout the whole process. Nobody had any expectations of me. They just wanted to love on me and help me through motherhood of those first couple months. And that meant so much to me and like started this pastor's wife journey for me in a way that, I can't even express the gratitude that I have for that.
Kind of that a village, it takes a village.
Yeah, and I mean, just so much grace. That's the best way to put it. No one expected anything from me, and instead of, I was thinking that I was going to have to be doing all these things, but then people were bringing me meals and helping me with my kids and just being amazing. So yeah, that's the best way I can put it.
All right, big fan of the church being amazing. You guys have anything to say to that? No pressure.
What was the question?
Oh, no. I mean, this might, so just the church being a support in raising kids as a mother, has that been able to?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. That is one of the questions that you're going to be asking coming up. I wrote more about that. But yeah, I couldn't have done it without the church community around me. I think my kids are who they are today because of the church community. So I totally agree with Ashley. I don't feel the church had any expectations of me as a pastor's wife either. I didn't play the piano. I didn't lead Bible studies. I just was me, and they were okay with that. So a lot of grace.
Yeah. Super cool.
Yeah, and I wasn't at River Valley when my kids were little. But the church I was at, I don't know if I would have lived through it without the ladies' Bible study. Partly the free childcare, so I could get a break, and partly just to focus on God and having grown-up people to talk to was a lifesaver.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, all the victories, even the free childcare, little victories. Sending it back to you, Ash. So the biggest influence that you think, and maybe there's like multiple, whether it's a who or a what. What do you think the biggest influence on you kind of becoming a mom? Growing into being a mom was?
I would say my mom and my sisters, as well as Brian's mom and my sister-in-laws, and my kids are the same age as my in-laws' kids, my sister-in-law's kids, and so I got to watch how they kind of did things with their children. And that really helped me to make decisions with my children. And also, like, you know, being able to call my sisters and be like, hey, you know, what kind of medicine do I give my kid with a snotty nose or whatever, or my mom or whatever. So, yeah, I would say I've got a really great family. So that would probably be it. And then, you know, with the church, there's a lot of women that are so willing to just like help with anything any advice that I ask. They're just, and I can say, like your mom, for instance, Kathy, she's one of those people that, well, when my boy was little, and she's got some doozies of a story.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And yeah, so I mean, Christina, there's just a lot of women out at Murphy that have just become like second mothers to me too. So really appreciate them.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's kind of what I'm excited about as Rachel and I enter parenthood. It's not gonna be easy, but I feel like the resources that we have at our fingertips and people are gonna make it far easier than I could imagine. I think there are some people that I know, like they have these kids and they're kind of on their own, and I'm like, well, we have a village, and I full on plan on taking like not advantage of that, but that network. So
Absolutely.
I would say too, Chrissy and Joe Pedersen, our kids are all the same age, and there's just sometimes where Chrissy and I are talking and she's like, you know what? You're going to go on a date with your husband tonight and I'm going to watch your kids. And I'm like, I love you. Oh, so, I mean, like just having people like that you can totally trust to leave your children with. And, you know, that's just our church family. And I'm just really blessed with that.
definitely.
Yeah, I had kind of the opposite experience because my husband was in the military when my kids were little. So we moved around a lot. We weren't close to our families at all. I'm the oldest in my family, and we had kids sooner, so my sisters didn't have babies yet. So it was really hard to try to figure out like everything through reading books, and they all said different things, and you know, so it was really hard. So it's really cool that you guys have that kind of community like that.
Definitely wonderful.
All right, Dana. Well, we're gonna go to you now, kind of a two-parter question. So I kind of want to know how has Christ had the biggest impact on your mothering? And then a question I'm really excited for the answer is, what quality of God do you think that you have experienced the most during motherhood? And those can be pretty broad questions, so you get to answer however you want, and we're just going to go from there.
Okay, I wrote this down because it's a lot, but the biggest impact from Christ on my mothering, God's word and its foundation was just huge. And then we just talked about community and mentors that walked with me along the way. Mark and I were in the youth group at the time when our kids were little, and the youth staff was amazing. And then life groups started gaining momentum. There was a mom's group. There was a home builders class for married couples with young kids. And then just mentors along the way. I mean, all of these groups provided me with women that just walked with me, and some of them were ahead of me in life. And so that was one way I just felt God was just, here's a gift to you, community. And it was pretty overwhelming. I was desperate for help. I had 4 under 4 at the time, and I was desperate. So I was so teachable. I just was going to anybody for help. I read the books ahead of time, but it didn't help. Yeah.
Who has time to read with
I know.
4 under 4?
Well, I think Frank said in his sermon that you read the books ahead of time and, you know, you throw them out afterwards because they're not working.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's good to be prepared. But anyway, I also wanted to talk about God's word, which was my total foundation. I loved this verse, Isaiah 40:11. He tends his flock like a shepherd. He gathers the lambs in his arms and carries them close to his heart. He gently leads those who have young. So not only did Jesus carry me close to his heart, but he walked with me as I carried my kids close to my heart. Mm-hmm. So that verse always just was huge for me. Character of God most appreciated. God, our provider, Jehovah Jireh. And by the way, there's an amazing song out by Maverick City, Jireh, which I play all the time. But I felt God provided for me in so many ways. And then God's presence, Shekinah. He always provided for me and was always present for me. And I have this huge crate in the attic of journals. I journaled from when my kids were babies to even now. And I don't know if I want my kids to read those journals, but I did read through them. And it reminded me every morning I got up and I read the Bible and I wrote a verse that spoke to me. And I would pray I would write my prayers down, and I'd pray for people in my life, and all of that's recorded. And it just, so much of the time I think back on regrets I had as a mom. That's easy to do, but I mean, that daily time in the Word, it made a difference, and God heard my prayers. And I just know that without the Bible as my guide, I would have been treading water and just going nowhere. So nothing prepares you for all those little munchkins that are looking to you. I mean, I remember sitting in the bathroom just wanting them to stop knocking on the door because I just wanted time alone. Yes. So, so I just appreciate that God never left me, and the scriptures were just huge. And I think I tucked away far more than I even realized at the time. So, so that's a long answer.
I was just listening to a podcast when they were talking about, because for me, I'm like, I don't have time to sit and read my Bible with my kids right now. And they were like, you cannot use that as an excuse because your kids are watching, for one. You can make time. And it's so true. I can make time for that. But even if I'm just journaling or reading one sentence, my kids are seeing my Bible open. And like Kiara, who's 8, is at the age now where she's noticing that. Maybe she wants to get her Bible out. And so listening to you say that, I've always thought you and Mark are just so amazing. And even before we had kids, Brian and I were like, we got to find out what they are doing, because we've got, when we were helping out with the youth, we saw all of your kids and how amazing all of them were. And we're like, okay. I mean, over the years, I've probably tried to pick your brain several times. Like, okay, so tell me, at this age, how do I? But
well, thank you. But it truly is community and God's word. I mean, those are my two go-tos. So if you're involved in community and you're reading your Bible, you got a fighting chance.
Yeah. Okay. That gives me some peace.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when you're saying like you read the Bible every morning, you journaled, I'm thinking like, it probably sometimes is just a verse and a sentence, and then you're on your way. We're not talking an hour long. We're talking, we got 5 minutes and a kid just screamed. So let's go.
My journals, a lot of them are just like, oh, Lord, help me get through today.
Yes.
Like, that was my prayer for the day.
Yeah. They're raw. I mean, like I said, I should destroy some of them. But,
my daughter and I were just talking about that this weekend, because she wants them, if I ever die, she wants all my journals. I'm like,
oh my gosh.
But sweetie, I was not careful at all. I didn't always follow up and say, wait, I didn't mean that. So I'd be really worried if you read them and I'm not around to ask questions like, Mom, what were you thinking? So I might read through them, but then they're really painful, because I'm like,
they are.
Ooh, I'm still saying the same things now I was saying 20 years ago. I thought I'd grown more than that.
Stay tuned, Dig Deeper. I'm going to try and get my hands on these journals and see what we got.
Nope.
Note to self, don't let them in my house.
No, that's fascinating. And that's, I think, what I was hoping for this podcast was just like, I don't know, on Instagram, it's really easy to see that like motherhood is great and awesome and stuff. But, and again, I'm not around a bunch of ignorant people. I think we all know like motherhood is the toughest thing. People have been kind of telling me and Rach as we're getting ready for it, they're like, it's the best, but then it's never just the best thing ever. It's the best, and then in parentheses, like the most hardest thing ever. And you're like, I could have just, the first part would have been cool. But again, I think being raised in community, and Rach being in the River Valley community for the last 15 years, like we've been able to have literally you three pour into us and her and kind of prepare us for that. So I'm excited. But for this next part, I don't know if excited is the right word. I want to know from all of you guys, and I don't know who wants to start first, but maybe the toughest part of motherhood. And this could be 3 different answers from 3 different perspectives, but I'm going to go ahead and let whoever wants to go first go first.
Oh, just go first. So for me, honestly, the hardest part is all the death to yourself. Because like before you have kids, you can kind of just take care of yourself. Once you have kids, you've got one or two or three or four, how many ever people that you have to take care of first. And there's this whole new world of opportunities to die to yourself that you would never, and it's hard. It's really, really hard. And I think that's what was hardest for me. Once I accepted it and was like, okay, I can be a servant to all these little people that do not appreciate it at all, and I will live, and just accepted it, it got easier for me. But that was the hardest for me.
Ashley or Dana? Ashley?
I think, well, I thought it was when I had newborns. That wasn't it. I thought it was when I had toddlers. That was pretty tough, and it still is, just having to chase down kids. Like, I can't have a conversation, really. I can't go out to dinner or anything like that with my children. But then now I've got an 8-year-old who is starting to become pretty independent of me and may not need me as much, or like I'm not like the coolest person to her anymore. And that hurts a little. I mean, I'm happy about it. And, honestly, she just wants, like, her dad is the light of her life. And I prayed for that. And so I'm not resentful whatsoever, but she'll just be like, I think I just need to have some Kiara dad time right now, Mom. And I'll be like, okay, well, I'll just leave. That's fine. So that just like as she's growing, the independence, and then her making bad choices, or maybe what if she gets picked on, or the bullying aspect, like all of those things. I'm a warrior helicopter mom, and I admit it. Like, it's something I need to work on.
Admittance is the first step, so that's good. That's good.
So this is like refining for me. Like, I thought, the whole selfless thing. Yes. I mean, I'm in yoga pants a lot. And that's a big change from before I had kids. And so, like, yeah, that's really difficult. But I think that this is going to be a real stretch for me in my walk with the Lord, to be able to really understand, like, letting go as my kids get older. So I don't know. 3 girls, teenagers. Ooh.
I was gonna say you're at some point gonna have like if I'm not mistaken, an 18-year-old, and then like a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
So start praying now.
Oh, I have been. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh gosh.
All right.
So I resonate with you a bit. My kids were close together in age, so it seemed like every stage was harder than the next. So if you had asked me as teenagers, I probably would have said, this is the hardest stage, or when they're young. But now I'm fast forwarding to pouring 18 years of myself into these kids, and then they go to college, and then they're young adults, and they don't need me anymore. And I'm not mom to them anymore. I am a consultant to them, because I'm only to offer advice when asked. And so identity crisis time still is hard. I mean, it's just like, I take that hat off after wearing it for 18 years. I mean, yes, I'm a mom to them still, and I'm still there to love them, but I'm not to rely on them to meet my emotional needs. That is dysfunction, capital D. And I don't want to make them feel guilty if they're not around me. So I really feel that I see so many moms pouring into their kids, and they're there all the time, and I was too. But it's hard. It's hard when you have to let go. But it's necessary, and you have to have your own life. So yeah.
Going through that transition must be just so crazy.
Yeah, I know for me, in my mind, my kids went from being 18 to going to college to being 35 with kids that I could enjoy my grandkids. Was not at all prepared from 18 to like 24. Like, there's this wild, scary, terrifying, like, and your kids are way less wild than mine. So, but it's just trying to trust God with that. Like, when you just have no authority or no power to help them not make stupid choices, is terrifying.
That's what I'm afraid of.
Yeah.
Oh, this is fascinating. I want you guys to keep going. I don't know what you want to talk about, but
Well, you just have to keep telling yourself their brains are not fully developed till they're 25.
But they don't know that.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
I know,
but they
then
tell
you just
you
pray.
at 10 that their brains are full of
Right. But you just pray like crazy. Just pretty much just pray like crazy.
Yep.
So I'm going to throw two kind of questions on you guys, maybe quick fire questions, not huge long answers. And if you don't have an answer, that's totally fine. But especially, and Rachel will be watching this. And so going into motherhood, me going into parenthood, one question, what do you guys think going into being a mom was the biggest misperception or misconception? So like you thought this was going to happen as a mom and that never happened. So if you have an answer there, cool. And then like the one piece of advice you would give somebody that's going to be a mom for the first time. I'm going to go ahead and guess that one is pray like crazy, but if you guys have any elaborations of those. So again, if you have answers, awesome. But if you don't, as we kind of wind down our time here, I would love to hear those personally.
I think one thing that Brian and I did was we're this happily married couple. We have a baby, and then like that baby is our life. And I think that we learned after like 6 months of Kiara being the center of our world, like we need to be focused on each other too. And so not forgetting that your spouse should come first. And of course you need to care for your baby and love that baby like no other, but just making sure that your marriage is taking some priority as well.
Absolutely.
It's hard not to with that sweet little baby that you just want to be around all the time.
Totally agree.
Okay.
And I would say the same thing for our relationship with God.
Yes.
Like, it's sometimes we have so many tasks and things that we have to get done, or somebody's sick or whatever. But there's something every day when you have kids. So you just have to make that your time with the Lord, even if it's just crying out, please help me, to just make sure that He's our number one priority.
I think there's so many podcasts and all the different things that we really can't have an excuse, no matter how tired you are or whatever, that it'll change your perspective in life as a new mom if you stay with the Lord, read your Bible, write in your journal, do whatever you have to do, but I think that we hear a lot like, oh, it's okay, this is just a season. God understands. You don't need to be as in your, in your Bible as much or whatever, but really for your own good, you do. For your own sanity, don't give up on that. Don't let that be your first priority.
Well, and I think it looks different. You might not be able to do a Beth Moore Bible study during this time, but and sometimes it's more sitting on your kitchen floor crying and praying, but just learning how to be a mom with God. And so remembering that He's with us, we're not alone, even when we don't know what we're doing. I used to pray all the time, Lord, cover all the things that I mess up,
Yes,
cover all
I
my
did that
failures.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
I think one of the things too that was really helpful is just consistency with. I grew up always going to church every Sunday, but the consistency of, again, the community, the church, they learned. My kids learned so much from their Sunday school teachers, from their youth workers, and that came from a consistent, and I know COVID's thrown a wrench in things, but a consistent time with in their classes, in the youth group. They developed a friend base that was huge for support, and they had peers that loved the Lord too. So I too hear so many parents are busy with so many things. Sundays now, they've got sports, and we just always found a way around that, just to make sure that they knew that was priority. And then we always had life groups, so they'd always be around adults who loved on them too. So I just come back to community, how important that is for kids and other people to speak into their life. If you're the only one speaking into their lives, they're going to miss something. So.
Awesome.
That was one of the things I wanted to mention. Just I used to help out with the youth, with CAD back in the old days, and I had a group of girls that had great parents, and I just remember like they wouldn't share things. They would share a lot with me, and I was able to like really help them through those things, and I want that so much. It was just such a sweet thing to be able to be that person for the younger kids, and but I want that for my kids so badly, to be able to have other people other than me to be able to go to, and because they're not going to want to share everything with you, unfortunately.
And another thing, I think it's a trap that we can fall into is like thinking that it's just our responsibility. Like if we do a good job as moms, our kids will be amazing, fantastic. And if we do a bad, or I should say, if our kids don't turn out the way we want, then we think that we failed. But it's such a bigger story than that. And God's writing their story, not us. And so just remembering that we do the best we can, and we have to trust God with the rest, because there's no perfect parent out there that can do everything perfectly right and raise a perfect kid. And one of my kids taught me this. He's like, Mom, you need to quit taking responsibility for all my choices. And I was like, yes. Okay, you're probably right. So that's another thing that it's the sooner you learn that, the better, I think.
True.
All right. Well, this has been great stuff. We got one more kind of part of the keep digging. So this is the resources. So grab your notebooks, your pens, audience. I want to know resources that you guys really leaned into as far as maybe helping in your growth as mothers.
I found this really awesome podcast, and it's called Risen Motherhood. And it really just, some of it is just scripture. And they just read, like, you're fearful, listen to this. And they'll have, like, John Piper get on there and just share encouragement to moms. And I've been listening to it probably for, like, a week. And I'm really, like, it's been my Bible time, really, this week. And it's been really amazing. So Risen Motherhood, look it up.
Okay, Risen Motherhood podcast. What else we got?
When the only parenting book I liked, and I read a lot of them, was Shepherding a Child's Heart. Did you guys read that one?
I've heard of it.
And I can't remember who wrote it, but it's Shepherding a Child's Heart, and I think it's still on Amazon. As far as parenting, and then my favorite book, just like being a woman and helping me with my relationship with God when my kids were little, was called The Confident Woman by Annabelle Gilham. And I think you can still get that on Amazon as well. And that one, you needed like a 3-ring binder, and she has lots of exercises and stuff. But I did all of them when my kids were little, and it was so helpful to me. So
We going Ted Tripp, the author of
Yes,
that?
that's
All
it.
right.
Very good.
Gotta love the Googles. Cool. All right. Shepherding a Child's Heart.
I read a book that was written, I think it was 85, so it's really probably outdated for anybody to read it. But Gail McDonald wrote a book, High Call, High Privilege, that I loved, and I think she wrote an updated version late 1990s, but she spoke to the high call, high privilege of a pastor's wife. And then she spoke about, in her book, she wrote a chapter on pastors' kids, and I loved what she had to share. And then her husband wrote a book called Order in Your Private World, which I thought was super. Have you heard of that, Tim?
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
And
Tyler
his
makes a
sequel.
joke about it because later he wrote Rebuilding Your Broken World because he had an affair.
Yeah, but it's like a little bit of a redemption story because it's like
It
is
is.
it reordering your private world?
Yes.
Is that because he messed up?
Something about that. But he messed up, but it was so cool because here's this pastor's couple. They're writing a book. They write books on, shepherding a congregation and loving their kids. But then there's failure and how they rebuilt their world after the failure. So, so many times we read books where it talks about just do this and then this. And, again, there's no perfect parents. There's no perfect people on earth. We're all broken people. And the sooner you can learn that, the better. So his whole book he wrote on grace, overcoming the failure. So
Yeah, when I was
appreciated
younger, I read a book by Philip Yancey, and it was all these different people. and how they failed, but God used them anyway. and I
Yeah.
was so annoyed with it. Like, because I thought that, we're supposed to figure this Christian thing out and we're going to get it all sorted and be good people. And I was very upset. And now I'm so thankful that God still uses broken people. And
Yes.
Thank God for that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
If he didn't use broken people, our churches would be empty. So.
For sure.
I'd also like to bring up, Tim, the emotionally healthy spirituality. Huge, because I don't feel I was emotionally healthy when I was raising my kids completely. There was so much below the surface that wasn't addressed that I think if I had recognized how to deal with the pain and get to the roots of some of my issues, I think I would have been presenting a more emotionally healthy spirituality to my kids. So that book is, I wish I had had that when my kids were young.
All right, so that's Peter Scazzaro. Emotionally, he's got a whole series on him. Leader, Spirituality, Church, I believe. Those are phenomenal books as well. So that's another one for you guys. Were you going to say something? Oh.
I was just going to ask you, but I'll ask you later. I want that book.
I have an extra copy.
Ooh, there it is, doling out the resources. Well, ladies, I hope it isn't next Mother's Day that we have you guys back on. I hope it's earlier than that, but we'll see. I'll be patient. You guys are great. Any final thoughts for our audience regarding anything?
Well, I'll just go back to the persevering thing. I mean, just keep trusting God and don't give up on yourself or on your kids, and just trust His grace and try to enjoy the journey, because every phase there's pros and cons, and your kids are going to outgrow it. If it's something driving you crazy, they're going to outgrow it soon. If it's something adorable, they're going to outgrow it soon. So you got to enjoy the adorable stuff and just get through the other stuff.
That's good.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you guys. Audience, thank you for listening, and we will catch you next week on Digging Deeper.
Bye.